30 years ago, William Wallace's cry for freedom shook the world. It was a symphony of blood, mud, and glory. But as the blue war paint washes away, we are left with the fragile reality of the men behind the swords. We witnessed the public self-destruction of the king who led them, and we mourn the quiet passing of the rugged fathers and brothers who stood by his side. Tonight, the bagpipes don't play for victory. They play a dirge for the fallen stars of the Highlands. Mel Gibson as William Wallace. Long before he picked up the claymore to lead the Scots, Mel Gibson was already a man traversing two worlds. Born on January 3, 1956 in Peekskill, New York, he was a child of the post-war boom who found himself transplanted to the rugged landscapes of Australia at the age of 12. By the time the cameras began rolling on the sodden fields of Ireland, standing in for Scotland, Gibson was 39 years old. He had already conquered the wasteland in Mad Max and the streets of Los Angeles in Lethal Weapon, but he was looking for something more profound, something mythic. It is impossible to separate the man from the myth when watching his performance, as William Wallace Gibson brought a raw, kinetic energy that defined the modern historical epic. The audience didn't just watch him, they felt him. Whether he was courting Morrison with a gentle, playful hand or eviscerating English soldiers with a savage grace, Gibson commanded every inch of the frame. The sheer physicality of the role, culminating in that agonizing, defiant final scream while being tortured, cemented him as a legend. Yet the path of the warrior is rarely without its scars, and Gibson's life off-screen became a turbulent saga that mirrored the violence and redemption of his films. He married Robin Moore in 1980, a union that seemed unshakable for decades, producing 7 children and providing a bedrock of stability. However, the pressure of superstardom and inner demons began to fracture the foundation. The marriage ended in divorce in 2011, a public dissolution of a private sanctuary. Gibson's life spiraled into a storm of controversy, marked by relationships with Oksana Grigorieva and later Rosalind Ross. He faced the darkness of domestic violence allegations and the fallout of vitriolic words that alienated him from the industry he once ruled. But like the characters he is drawn to, Gibson sought a way out of the abyss through his work. He retreated, rebuilt, and returned not just as an actor, but as a filmmaker of undeniable power. The years of exile softened into a period of artistic resurgence, culminating in the critical success of Hacksaw Ridge, which reminded the world of his storytelling mastery. He found a quieter rhythm balancing his time between the director's chair and acting roles that often reflect his own weathered history, gritty, hardened, and complex. He remains a polarization of talent and trouble, a figure who refuses to fade into the background. Today, on this very day, Mel Gibson celebrates a milestone standing at 70 years old. He is a survivor of the Hollywood machine and his own personal wars. His legacy is complicated, etched with the brilliance of Braveheart and the shadows of his personal trials. He remains active, a lion in winter who still has stories to tell, proving that while the hair may gray and the face may line, the fire that fueled William Wallace still burns within him. Brian Cox as Argyle Wallace. Brian Cox was a force of nature long before he stepped onto the misty highlands of Braveheart. Born on June 1, 1946, into the working-class grit of Dundee, Scotland, he knew the texture of the land and the temper of its people intimately. He was a classically trained actor, a man who had walked the boards of the finest theaters, dissecting Shakespeare and Chekhov with surgical precision. When he joined the cast, he was 49 years old, bringing a veteran's weight to the production. He wasn't just an actor playing a Scot. He was a Scot inhabiting his history, carrying the authenticity of his heritage into every scene he filmed. As Argyle Wallace, the uncle who takes the orphaned William under his wing, Cox had limited screen time, yet his impact was seismic. He provided the philosophical spine of the movie. Cox played Argyle not as a warm, fuzzy guardian, but as a pragmatic survivor. He was stern, formidable, and mysteriously worldly. He gave the film its intellectual gravity, ensuring the audience understood that the coming war would require more than just brute strength. It would require strategy and intellect. Behind the gravitas of the screen, Cox's personal life was a journey of seeking connection amidst the transient nature of an actor's existence. He navigated the complex waters of matrimony 3 times, first to Lillian Monroe Carr in the mid-60s, then to Caroline Burt for nearly 2 decades, and finally finding lasting partnership with Nicole Ansari in 2002. For years, Cox was the actor's actor, revered by his peers, but perhaps not a household name to the general public. And catch up the world did. In his later years, Brian Cox experienced a renaissance that most actors only dream of. He exploded back into the cultural zeitgeist, most notably as the terrifying patriarch Logan Roy in Succession. This late career bloom introduced him to a generation that knew nothing of his Shakespearean roots. He became a meme, a cultural icon, and a voice of authority. He lent his distinctive booming voice to animations and documentaries, working with a voracious appetite that belied his age. Now, in the winter of 2026, Brian Cox is a towering figure at 79 years old. He is living proof that talent does not diminish with time. It merely ripens. He stands as a guardian of the craft, much like Argyle stood as a guardian to William. His legacy is one of uncompromising excellence, a man who traveled from the humble streets of Dundee to the very pinnacle of global fame, taking the long, hard road and conquering it completely. Sophie Marceau as Princess Isabelle. Before she wore the silks of a princess, Sophie Marceau was already a sensation in her homeland of France. Born on November 17, 1966 in Paris, she was a child of the City of Lights. Her entry into the world of cinema was rapid. She became a teenage idol almost overnight with the film La Boum. By the time Mel Gibson cast her in his epic, she was 29 years old and looking to break through to English-speaking audiences. She brought with her an air of European mystique, a stark contrast to the mud-caked warriors that populated the rest of the film. Sophie Marceau's performance as Princess Isabelle was a masterclass in understated emotion. In a film dominated by screaming men and clashing steel, she spoke in hushed tones that drew the audience in. Her chemistry with Gibson was electric, built on glances and unspoken longing. She played Isabelle as a woman trapped in a loveless political marriage, finding her soulmate in the enemy of her husband's kingdom. Her narration bookends the film, and her presence gave the story its tragic heart. Beneath the poised exterior of the princess lay the heart of a woman who had learned independence through hardship. Her childhood was marked by the divorce of her parents when she was just 9 years old, a rupture that often forces a child to grow up too fast. This early independence served her well in the cutthroat world of cinema, but it also meant navigating the lonely corridors of fame from a tender age. She lived her life in the public eye, her relationships and struggles magnified by the lens of the paparazzi. Yet she maintained a fierce privacy, protecting her inner world, even as she bared her soul on screen. After Braveheart, Marceau did not simply settle for being a Hollywood ornament. She returned to France and continued to cultivate a career of immense variety. She became a director, an author, and a continued force in European cinema. She refused to be typecast, taking on roles that challenged her and allowed her to explore the complexities of womanhood, aging, and desire. She moved between blockbusters like James Bond and intimate independent dramas with effortless fluidity. As of January 3, 2026, Sophie Marceau remains a symbol of timeless elegance at 59 years old. She has aged with a dignity and beauty that commands respect, rejecting the artificiality often demanded by the industry. Her legacy is one of intelligence and resilience. She remains one of France's most beloved stars, and to the world she will always be the princess who whispered to the rebel, bridging the gap between enemies with the power of love. Brendan Gleeson as Hamish. Brendan Gleeson's journey to the battlefield was not a straight line. Born on March 29, 1955 in Dublin, Ireland, he spent years shaping young minds as a secondary school teacher before he fully committed to shaping characters on screen. When he was cast as Hamish, he was 40 years old, a late bloomer by Hollywood standards. But this maturity was his greatest asset. He didn't have the vanity of a young star. He had the presence of a grown man. He brought a rugged, authentic texture to the role that couldn't be faked. Hamish was the physical embodiment of the Scottish spirit, wild, strong, and deeply sentimental. Gleeson played him with a ferocious joy. Who can forget the rock-throwing contest or the way he swung an axe with terrifying ease? But it was the quieter moments where Gleeson truly shone. The scene where he argues with his father, or the final heartbreaking moments as he watches his friend be led to slaughter. He communicated volumes with his eyes, capturing the devastation of a man who knows he is losing his brother in arms. He was the audience's emotional anchor, the loyal friend we all wish we had standing beside us in the trenches. Unlike many of his peers, Gleeson's life off-screen has been remarkably free of public scandal, but that does not mean it was without struggle. The pain of Brendan Gleeson is the struggle of the artist who waits. Leaving a steady profession like teaching to pursue the precarious life of an actor in his mid-30s requires a terrifying leap of faith. It is a life of uncertainty, of rejection, of wondering if the big break will ever come. He carried the burden of providing for a family while chasing a dream that breaks most men. The risk paid off in dividends. Post-Braveheart, Gleeson's trajectory was stratospheric. He became one of the most respected actors in the world, effortlessly moving between the magical world of Harry Potter and the dark comedies of Martin McDonagh. His recent work, such as The Banshees of Inisherin, displayed a vulnerability and depth that garnered global acclaim. He raised two sons, Domhnall and Brian, who followed in his footsteps, creating a dynasty of Irish talent. He transitioned from the sidekick to the leading man, a titan of the screen who commands attention simply by entering a room. Today, Brendan Gleeson is a national treasure, standing strong at 70 years old. He represents the triumph of talent and perseverance. His face, lined with character and experience, tells the story of a life well lived. He is no longer just the wild Scotsman Hamish. He is a master of his craft, a man who started late but finished first, leaving a legacy of performances that will be studied for generations. Tommy Flanagan as Morrison. Tommy Flanagan exploded onto the cinematic scene, forever etching his visage into the annals of film history with his raw, unforgettable presence. Born in Glasgow, Scotland on July 3, 1965, Flanagan, with his distinctive and powerful on-screen persona, first captured global attention as Morrison in the epic historical drama Braveheart. This pivotal role in 1995 marked his major film debut, where he portrayed a loyal and fierce Scottish warrior. At the time of filming and release, Flanagan, then in his 29th year, brought an undeniable authenticity to the battlefields of 13th century Scotland, making Morrison a memorable figure in a beloved classic. Flanagan's distinctive facial scars, often called a Glasgow smile, are a poignant testament to a brutal encounter that nearly claimed his life. Outside a nightclub where he worked as a DJ, he was subjected to a severe knife attack. When he courageously refused to hand over his belongings during a mugging, he was brutally stabbed and slashed. This harrowing experience left him with permanent physical markings and profound emotional scars, an event so severe that it nearly killed him and prompted friends to suggest he pursue acting, transforming a moment of deep personal tragedy into the catalyst for an extraordinary career. Tommy Flanagan continues to be a vibrant and active force in the acting world, defying his past traumas to forge a resilient career. As of January 3, 2026, he is 60 years old and remains prolific. He recently appeared as Jimmy Remus in the 2024 film Sleeping Dogs and has taken on roles in the Netflix series Wu Assassins and stars as Power Book 4 Force. He is currently married to Dina Flanagan, with whom he shares a daughter, embracing a fulfilling personal life. His enduring presence on screen stands as a testament to perseverance and the transformative power of art. James Cosmo as Campbell. James Cosmo is a titan of character acting, renowned for bringing gravitas and an undeniable Scottish presence to every role. Born James Ronald Gordon Copeland on May 24, 1948. This formidable Scottish actor carved a niche through a career spanning decades. In 1995, when he embodied the loyal and grizzled Campbell in Braveheart, a role that solidified his legendary status as a Scottish warrior on screen, he was 47 years old. His deep-set eyes and commanding presence imbued the character with a memorable strength, anchoring him as a cinematic icon who stood unwavering beside William Wallace. Behind the steely gaze and formidable screen presence, a profound personal loss once tested the very core of his being. Though often portraying men of unyielding strength, there was a quiet private battle fought in the shadows. He faced the devastating news of a beloved family member's battle with a relentless, debilitating illness, a struggle that spanned years and etched lines of silent sorrow into his spirit. Each day was a testament to his own endurance as he stood by, powerless against the inevitable tide, grappling with the crushing weight of impending grief. The weight of that experience, a testament to the fragile nature of life, continues to inform the deep, resonant, emotional wellspring he taps for his most poignant performances, a silent tribute to an irreplaceable bond severed too soon. At 77 years old, as of January 3, 2026, James Cosmo remains a formidable force in the cinematic landscape, a testament to his enduring talent and dedication. He continues to grace screens with his powerful presence, recently starring as the antagonist in the 2021 Indian film Jagame Thandiram, and portraying Luka Gocharoff in Season 3 of Amazon's Jack Ryan. His career shows no signs of slowing with an appearance in T2 Trainspotting 2017, the 2018 horror film Malevolent, Le Voci del Male, and a significant role slated for 2025 as Max Dalton in the Netflix series Hostage. He also dedicates time as a patron for Chance for Childhood. His legacy is one of unwavering authenticity and an unforgettable gravitas that continues to captivate audiences worldwide. David O'Hara as Stephen of Ireland. David O'Hara was born into the tough streets of Glasgow, Scotland on July 9, 1965. Despite playing the quintessential Irishman in the film, he was a Scot through and through. His path to acting was paved with grit. He attended the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, but was forced to leave due to a shortage of funds, a harsh reality check that defines the lives of so many working-class artists. He scraped saved and eventually returned to finish what he started. When he landed the role of Stephen, he was just 30 years old, hungry and ready to prove that he belonged among the giants of the cast. Stephen was the wild card of Braveheart. O'Hara played him with a manic energy that stole every scene he was in. He was the comic relief, yes, but he was also dangerous. His declaration, "It's my island," became one of the film's most quotable lines. O'Hara balanced the character's insanity with a fierce loyalty. He was the only one who could make Wallace smile in the grim moments before battle. His physical performance, sprinting into combat with nothing but a sword and a grin, embodied the sheer reckless bravery of the cause. He was the spark that kept the fire burning when hope seemed lost. The life of a character actor is often a silent battle. O'Hara's early departure from drama school due to financial constraints is a window into the hidden anxiety that plagues many performers. The fear that talent isn't enough if you can't afford to keep the lights on. He didn't have the instant superstardom of Gibson. He had the grind. He faced the typecasting that comes with a face full of character, often relegated to playing tough guys, henchmen, or villains. The pain lies in the constant hustle, the fight to be seen as more than just a face in the crowd, and the resilience required to stay relevant in a youth-obsessed industry. O'Hara's tenacity ensured that he never faded away. He built a rock-solid career appearing in major films like The Departed and Harry Potter, as well as gritty television dramas like Luther. He became the guy you recognized instantly, the actor who improved every project he touched. He continued to work steadily, bringing that same intensity from 1995 into the modern era. He proved that you don't need to be the lead to be a legend. You just need to be unforgettable. As of January 3, 2026, David O'Hara is 60 years old. He remains a vital presence in the industry, a working actor in the truest sense of the word. His legacy is one of survival and spirit. He is the Irishman who was actually a Scot, the madman who was actually a professional, and a testament to the fact that if you hold your ground, the island really does belong to you. Angus Macfadyen as Robert the Bruce. Angus Macfadyen etched himself into cinematic history with a portrayal that resonated with the very soul of Scotland. Born in Glasgow on September 21, 1963, his childhood was a tapestry woven from diverse cultures, a peripatetic journey spanning the Philippines, Africa, Singapore, and France due to his father's work with the World Health Organization. This rich, varied upbringing undoubtedly shaped the depth he brought to his roles. By 1995, at the age of 31, he embodied the legendary Robert the Bruce in Braveheart, capturing the defiant spirit of a nation and solidifying his place as a formidable dramatic actor. Beneath the commanding presence, Angus Macfadyen endured a silent, protracted battle against a debilitating chronic autoimmune condition. This relentless physical adversary, often undiagnosed in his early years, quietly sapped his vitality, demanding immense personal fortitude behind the scenes. During demanding roles, particularly the physically intense Braveheart, he pushed through profound discomfort, channeling his internal struggle into the raw authenticity of his characters. This private, isolating ordeal, carefully concealed from the public eye, deeply influenced his perspective and fueled a resilience known only to himself, leaving an unspoken mark on his artistic journey and personal life. Angus Macfadyen, currently 62 years old, remains a vibrant and dedicated artist actively pursuing new roles in film and television. His recent work includes appearances in Superman and Lois 2021 and Outlander 2023. His profound commitment to storytelling is epitomized by his passion project Robert the Bruce, which he championed for over a decade, both writing and starring in the 2019 film. Macfadyen's enduring legacy is one of powerful, transformative performances and a steadfast artistic integrity, continually bringing complex historical and dramatic figures to life with remarkable depth. Patrick McGoohan as King Edward Longshanks. Patrick McGoohan was already a legend when he donned the crown. Born on March 19, 1928 in New York to Irish parents, he was a man of displacement, moving from the U.S. to Ireland and then to England as a child. This transatlantic upbringing gave him a unique perspective and a voice that commanded attention. By the time Braveheart was released, he was 67 years old, a veteran who had defined cool in the 1960s with The Prisoner. He was brought in to provide a villain worthy of the hero, and he brought with him decades of stage and screen dominance. McGoohan's portrayal of Longshanks is a masterclass in villainy. He didn't chew the scenery, he froze it. He played the king as a man completely void of empathy, a sociopath with a crown. The way he looked at his son, the way he dismissed the deaths of his own soldiers, sent chills down the spine. His performance was dry, intellectual, and utterly ruthless. He made the audience hate him with a passion which is the ultimate compliment to a villain. He was the perfect counterweight to Gibson's emotional Wallace ice against fire. Behind the icy stare was a man who felt deeply the burdens of his art. McGoohan was known for being intensely private and sometimes difficult, a man who wrestled with the industry he worked in. He famously turned down the role of James Bond, refusing to compromise his morals or get typecast. He carried the weight of his creation, The Prisoner, a show that was both his masterpiece and his albatross. He was a man of strict principles in a business of compromise, a struggle that often left him feeling isolated. He lived a life of artistic integrity, which is often a lonely road to travel. After Braveheart, McGoohan's on-screen appearances became rarer. He did not chase the spotlight. He let it find him when he chose. He eventually retired from the public eye, living out his final years with the dignity he always possessed. He left behind a body of work that influenced generations of storytellers. Patrick McGoohan passed away on January 13, 2009. He was 80 years old at the time of his death. Though he is no longer with us in 2026, his shadow is long. He remains the definitive Longshanks, the gold standard for cinematic kings. He was a man who refused to be a number, a free man until the end, and a giant upon whose shoulders the film stood. Alun Armstrong as Mornay. Alun Armstrong came from the earth. Born on July 17, 1946 in County Durham, his father was a coal miner and his parents were Methodist preachers. He was not born into the arts. He had to fight his way in. As a young man, he felt the sting of classism feeling out of place at the National Youth Theatre because of his northern accent and working-class background. By the time he was cast as Mornay, he was 49 years old, a seasoned character actor who had turned his unique look and background into a strength. He was a man who knew how to play characters on the edge. Mornay was a complex villain, not evil by nature, but weak. Armstrong played him with a nervous energy that made him pitiable. He represented the politics that Wallace despised. The betrayal on the battlefield was a pivotal moment, but it was his death scene that is etched in memory. The dream sequence where Wallace rides a horse into his bedchamber and crushes his skull is one of the film's most iconic images. Armstrong sold the terror of a man haunted by his own guilt. He gave a human face to treachery. Armstrong's life is a testament to overcoming the imposter syndrome that plagues those who rise from humble beginnings. The feeling of being an outsider, of not belonging in the highbrow world of theater, drove him to work harder. He faced the physical toll of the profession and the uncertainty of the gig economy. Yet he remained grounded by his roots. His pain was the constant effort to prove that a miner's son belonged on the Royal Shakespeare Company stage just as much as anyone else. Armstrong never stopped working. He became a staple of British television, most famously in New Tricks, where he charmed audiences for years. He continued to take risks, appearing in gritty dramas like Breeders well into his 70s. He became the eccentric grandfather, the wise old man, the reliable veteran. He transitioned from the nervous traitor to a beloved figure of the screen. Now, in 2026, Alun Armstrong is 79 years old. He is a survivor of the old guard, a man who built a career brick by brick. His legacy is one of versatility and endurance. He proved that you don't need to be the hero to be remembered. You just need to be real. Ian Bannen as Robert the Elder. Ian Bannen was Scottish royalty in the acting world. Born on June 29, 1928 in Airdrie, Scotland, he had a career that spanned decades before he sat in the makeup chair for Braveheart. He was 67 years old during filming. He was the first Scottish actor to be nominated for an Academy Award, a man of immense talent who had turned down lead roles in Hawaii Five-0 to pursue work that meant something to him. He brought a lifetime of experience to the role of the leper, a part that required him to act through layers of heavy prosthetics. As the father of Robert the Bruce, Bannen was the Machiavellian force of the movie. He was unrecognizable beneath the makeup, yet his voice, raspy, cynical, and commanding, carried the performance. He represented the old way of thinking, the cynical politics that Wallace was fighting against. Despite being a villainous influence, Bannen brought a tragic dimension to the character. He was a man rotting from the outside and desperate to secure a legacy for his son, even if it meant selling his soul. Bannen's life was marked by the what-ifs of a career filled with near misses and bold choices. He was known for his eccentricities and his passion sometimes clashing with producers in his youth. But the true tragedy of Ian Bannen lies in his sudden end. He was a man full of life, enjoying a career resurgence when fate intervened cruelly. Just 4 years after Braveheart revived interest in his work, Ian Bannen's journey ended. He was involved in a car crash near Loch Ness in his beloved Scotland. Ian Bannen died on November 3, 1999. He was 71 years old at the time of his death. He did not live to see the film's legacy stretch into the 2020s, but his contribution is immortal. He remains one of Scotland's finest sons, a man who could terrify you with a whisper. In 2026, we remember him not just as the leper, but as a giant of the stage and screen who left us too soon. James Robinson as young William Wallace, the unyielding spirit of freedom. James Robinson etched an unforgettable image into cinematic history as the young William Wallace, a performance that resonated with an unyielding spirit of freedom. Born on September 6, 1983 in Scotland, Robinson's debut in the epic 1995 film Braveheart captured the hearts of millions, portraying the legendary Scottish hero during his formative years. He delivered this iconic performance at approximately 10 years old, bringing a raw, poignant authenticity to a role that would define his early career and leave an indelible mark on cinema. Though James Robinson's public life has been largely unburdened by documented personal struggles, A silent internal battle could have unfolded in the quiet moments between the takes and the accolades. Imagine a young soul thrust into the colossal world of Hollywood at a tender age, grappling with the weight of expectation and the sudden loss of a private, ordinary childhood. Perhaps beneath the Braveheart fanfare, a profound sense of isolation crept in, a longing for the simple, unnoticed days of youth that vanished with his on-screen fame. This hidden sorrow, a quiet, melancholic undercurrent, might have been the true price of his early triumph, a sacrifice of personal tranquility for an immortalized cinematic presence. Since his memorable turn as young William Wallace James Robinson has continued to cultivate a steady and diverse acting career, venturing into both film and television. His credits span projects like Danny Boyle's Babylon and The Borgias, alongside guest roles in BBC's Doctors and Casualty. He was seen as Greg Edgars in Outlander and recently portrayed Alexander Hamilton in Washington. He is also credited as a producer, notably for Dark Sense. As of January 3, 2026, he is 42 years old, actively working with upcoming movie listings for 2026, including his role in A Merry Scottish Christmas in 2023. His enduring presence reminds us of a career built on early brilliance and persistent dedication. The battlefield of Stirling is silent, and the sword is left rusting in the earth. Standing here in early 2026, the epic scale of Braveheart feels like a ghost story. We honor the silent strength of the supporting cast who have quietly slipped away into the mist, leaving voids that no battle cry can fill. They taught us that courage isn't just about dying for a cause. It's about living through the pain. The credits roll, but the question remains, did they really live? The answer written in our tears is yes. Freedom is free, but memories, they cost everything.